Most countries are drawn once and stay that way. In Bangladesh, entire parts of the map disappear and reappear every year. Some places you can stand on today didn't exist last year, and others will be gone before the next. Yet the country works because of this, not despite it. To understand Bangladesh, you have to stop thinking of land as fixed and start thinking of it as something that moves, where the land never settles. Bangladesh is shaped by water more than borders. Hundreds of rivers cross the country, constantly shifting their paths. Here's the first shock. The ground itself relocates. Along major rivers are temporary landmasses known as chars. They form from sediment. They grow. They vanish. Maps become outdated quickly. This isn't erosion. It's a cycle. Land here isn't owned in the usual sense. It's occupied while it lasts. The Brahmaputra, Ganges, and Meghna rivers carry millions of tons of sediment downstream each year. As the current slows, that sediment settles. Islands emerge where there was only water. Families move onto these chars within months. They plant crops. They build temporary homes from bamboo and corrugated metal. They know the land might disappear during the next monsoon, but they also know it might last 5 years, maybe 10. The chars don't just support subsistence farming. Some grow cash crops. Some raise livestock. Some become temporary trade posts between river traffic. The land moves, so the economy moves with it. When forest and water merge, in the southwest lies one of the most unusual environments on Earth. This is the Sundarbans. Here, land and water stop behaving as separate things. Trees rise directly from tidal mud. Channels replace paths. Timing matters more than distance. Here's what feels unsettling. There is no stable ground to retreat to. Movement depends on tides, light, and awareness. Mistakes aren't dramatic, they're final. This forest doesn't adapt to people. People adapt to it. The Sundarbans is the largest mangrove forest in the world. It's also a tidal system where water levels shift by several meters twice daily. Paths that exist at low tide vanish at high tide. Navigation requires intimate knowledge of channels, currents, and seasonal patterns. There are no roads, no fixed docks, no permanent markers. Movements are deliberate. Noise is controlled. Respect is automatic. The forest operates on a rhythm outsiders can't see but locals can feel. Miss that rhythm, and the environment becomes hostile fast. Then the country compresses, where movement replaces space. In Dhaka, space is limited, so movement becomes constant. Here's the shock. Stillness almost doesn't exist. Roads fill instantly. Rivers act like highways. Everything is layered, not spread out. The city doesn't expand outward, it stacks inward. Bangladesh doesn't solve density with space, it solves it with motion. Dhaka is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. Over 20 million people occupy an area that wasn't designed for a tenth of that. But it functions. The reason isn't infrastructure in the traditional sense. It's coordination without formal systems. Rickshaws move through traffic using routes that shift minute by minute. Drivers read the flow, not the signs. The city doesn't zone, it oscillates. Buildings rise faster than regulations can account for. Some are unfinished for years but still occupied. Floors are added incrementally. Businesses operate from structures that shift purposes without formal approval. If you're interested in places where geography sets the rules and modern systems are forced to adapt, subscribe. This channel explores destinations that function under different conditions, where flooding is expected, not feared. In northeastern Bangladesh, land disappears on schedule. These are the Hor wetlands. For months, villages become islands. Roads vanish. Boats replace streets. Here's the shock. Flooding here isn't an emergency. It's planned for. Homes sit on raised ground. Crops follow water cycles. Life reorganizes itself seasonally. The land doesn't promise permanence, only rhythm. The Hor region contains over 400 wetland depressions that fill during monsoon season. These aren't floods in the disaster sense. They're seasonal transformations. From June to October, the Hors become vast inland seas. Transport switches entirely to boats. Schools operate on floating schedules. Markets relocate to higher ground. Farmers plant rice varieties that mature before the waters rise. Harvest happens in a narrow window. Then the fields flood and fishing begins. Then the rains return and the cycle repeats. There's no attempt to drain the chars permanently, no large-scale engineering to fix the flooding, because the flooding isn't broken. It's the reason the region remains productive. The seasonal inundation deposits fresh silt. It recharges groundwater. It supports fisheries that feed millions. Infrastructure here isn't built to resist water. It's built to float, elevate, or relocate. This isn't resignation. It's calibration, where scale feels counterintuitive. Along the southern coast stretches Cox's Bazar. It's one of the longest beaches on Earth, but it doesn't feel dramatic. No cliffs, no aggressive development, no spectacle. Just length, horizon, and repetition. After so much movement and instability, this feels strangely restrained. Cox's Bazar runs for over 120 kilometers uninterrupted. That length is disorienting. Most beaches feel finite. You can see where they end. Here, the curve extends beyond sight. During certain seasons, the shore becomes an informal economy. Dried fish are laid out in vast grids. Salt is harvested in shallow evaporation pans. The beach functions as industrial space, recreation zone, and transport corridor simultaneously. What feels restrained is actually versatility without zoning. There's no single designated purpose. The beach absorbs whatever use is needed at the time. Where the land finally rises. In the northeast, the terrain changes again. This is Silet. Rolling hills replace floodplains. Order replaces motion. Tea gardens stretch in clean lines. But even here, rain controls everything. Growth depends on timing, not force. Nothing escapes the climate. Sylhet receives some of the heaviest rainfall in the world. The hills here aren't dramatic. They're gradual, terraced, and cultivated. Tea estates cover the slopes in geometric patterns. The rows follow contour lines precisely. Drainage channels run between sections. This is one of the few parts of Bangladesh where the landscape looks managed in a conventional sense. But that management is still dictated by water. The tea gardens look timeless in photographs, but they require constant recalibration. What appears as order is actually continuous adjustment to conditions that never fully stabilize. Why Bangladesh feels unsettling? Bangladesh doesn't try to stabilize its environment. It cooperates with it. Land moves, so systems stay flexible. Water rises, so structures adjust. Density increases, so movement replaces space. The country isn't chaotic, it's responsive. That's what feels unfamiliar. Most countries build infrastructure assuming the environment will stay roughly the same. Bangladesh builds infrastructure assuming the environment will change. That shift in assumption creates systems that look temporary but prove durable. It's a country that developed around instability. The systems that emerge from that approach don't translate well to other contexts. They're hyper-localized. They depend on distributed decision-making. They assume environmental variability as the baseline. What feels unsettling is that it works. And it works precisely because it doesn't try to impose permanence where conditions don't support it. Bangladesh isn't defined by flooding or crowding. It's defined by adaptability. Land that relocates, forests without boundaries, cities built on motion, floods that arrive on schedule. These places weren't designed to feel comfortable. They were designed to keep working. Here, stability was never an option. Adaptation was the only design. If this video changed how you think about Bangladesh, subscribe. Because some of the most revealing places to visit aren't shaped to last. They're shaped to adjust. Understanding Bangladesh requires abandoning the mental model that land is static and infrastructure is permanent. It requires seeing an entire country as a living system that reorganizes itself continuously, not through central planning, not through technological force. Through millions of individual adaptations that compound into collective resilience, the chars will keep shifting. The Sundarbans will keep flooding. Dhaka will keep compressing. The chars will keep filling and draining. And life will continue, not in spite of these conditions, but because of the systems designed around them. This is what makes Bangladesh one of the most instructive places on Earth, not for what it's built, but for how it rebuilds every single year.